The Employee Retention Credit from the IRS is the last major COVID relief program. Claim up to $26,000 for each employee you had on payroll. This is Marty Stewart with Disaster Loan Advisors. The IRS tax refund is newfound money for your business. Let us help you navigate the ERC program with flexible options and working together. You can relax and have peace of mind that you're in good hands. Stay safe, stay compliant, and keep more of your refund. Take the next step and schedule a free ERC consultation call with us today.
What is the CARES Act Employee Retention Credit? The last 2 years have been challenging for everyone, including businesses that suffered greatly from the COVID-19 pandemic, people's movement restrictions, and economic hardship. As a result, the USA federal government has stepped up to provide financial resources to these companies under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security (CARES Act). Since the Employee Retention Credit (ERC) was first included in the action, several modifications and additions have been made. The first was funded by the American Rescue Plan Act, and the second by the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. Firstly, the ERC provisions were complicated, and later on, these changes made it more challenging, requiring a consultant for legal advice. What is the CARES Act Employee Retention Credit? ERC, created in the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, is regarded as one of the most critical contributions from the government so far among so many financial resources. The Employer Retention Credit is a provision of the CARES Act that allows employers to claim a tax credit for each full-time employee who remains employed with the company for at least 36 months after being hired. The credit is available to both small and large businesses. To qualify, the business must have at least 50 full-time employees and have filed taxes in at least 2 of the previous 3 years. The ERC is a fully refundable tax credit by the U.S. government for businesses. Here, the qualified company may get a refund equivalent to 50% of the eligible salaries, including healthcare costs. ERC applies to qualified wages paid after March 12, 2020, but before January 1, 2021. The maximum credit for an eligible employer for preparing wages given to any employee is $5,000. Therefore, each employee's total amount of qualified earnings for all calendar years is $10,000. Who is an eligible employer for the CARES Act Employee Retention Credit? The CARES Act, a new federal law enacted on January 1, 2019, offers a tax credit worth up to $2,500 per eligible employee. Businesses with at least 50 employees are eligible for the credit. An eligible employee is an individual who is employed in a full-time capacity. An individual has completed at least 26 weeks of service in a calendar year. An individual whose job duties require significant intellectual effort or skill. Can an eligible employer receive the Employee Retention Credit and a loan under the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP? Unfortunately, no. If a company obtains a PPP loan, they become ineligible to earn the Employee Retention Credit. How is the ERC amount determined? One of the simplest ways to demonstrate the ERC credit estimate is by understanding its various essential clauses. For example, if you're eligible for ERC, there are 2 tax years, 2020 and 2021. For the tax year 2020, you'll receive a credit of approximately 50% of each employee's wages, with a cap of $5,000 maximum. So if you've 55 employees, you'll receive an ERC of 55 multiplied by $5,000. Additionally, you may claim group health plan fees from the qualified earnings. For the tax year 2021, businesses are eligible to get 70% of qualified wages, which is $10,000 for each employee. So if you have 55 employees, you'll get ERC 55 multiplied by $7,000 for the tax year 2021. You may also claim the health plan fees for the qualified earnings. Kindly note that though we've simplified the way of calculation, there are multiple clauses for ERC. Therefore, it's always better to consult a professional to get every penny of due payment. CARES Act updates. Many changes have been made to the ERC in the most recent versions. One such prominent change is the flexibility to apply for the ERC and a tax credit under COVID-19. However, only one credit may not be claimed for the same pay. Another important update is regarding the salary requirements for ERC calculations. Businesses cannot include paid leave compensation. If you're eligible for Restaurant Revitalization Fund, RRF, grants and closed venue operator awards, you're not eligible for ERC on your pay salaries. However, you may utilize Restaurant Revitalization Fund money until 2023 to cover costs. CARES Act laws. The U.S. federal government created ERC under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act through the law, effective from March 2020. The primary purpose of the aid was to help employers keep workers on the payroll. the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, CAA, and the American Rescue Plan Act are other measures influencing the Act, ARPA. Through 2021, both bills modify and prolong credits and advance payments. The CARES Act was enacted in response to the COVID pandemic, which saw increased unemployment and business closures across the United States. The CARES Act aims to help businesses retain employees and prevent them from leaving to find employment that pays more. As a result, the CARES Act will likely positively impact job security and economic growth by providing a financial incentive for employers to keep their employees. Is an employer required to pay qualified wages to its employees under the CARES Act? The CARES Act gives two options to businesses: either pay the employees qualified wages and claim retention credit, or elect not to claim the employee retention credit. So, employers don't need to pay qualified wages to the employees. In the ERC scheme, small and medium-sized firms can receive up to 50% of the qualifying salaries earned from March 13th to December 31st, 2020. Businesses can claim credit for 2021. CAA increases the tax credit to 70% paid through 2021. What are the qualified wages? The definition of qualifying earnings depends on how many workers an eligible firm has. For example, if an employer averaged more than 100 full-time employees during 2019, qualified wages generally include specific health care costs, up to $10,000 per employee. These employers may only count earnings up to the amount that the employee would have been paid for working an equal length during the 30 days immediately before the time of economic hardship. Suppose an employer averaged 100 or fewer full-time employees during 2019. In that case, qualified wages are those wages, including health care costs, up to $10,000 per employee, paid to any employee during the period operations were suspended or the period of the decline in gross receipts, regardless of whether or not its employees are providing services. Under the CARES Act, employers are eligible for a retention credit if they keep at least 50% of their workers on the payroll for at least 180 days in any calendar year. The credit is calculated as a percentage of wages paid to employees during that period. What are other coronavirus tax credits available? Due to COVID-19, you can apply for the ERC and a tax credit for giving paid leave. You cannot, however, claim both credits for the same income. With the newest updates of ERC, there are various adjustments. Additionally, you cannot consider the paid leave compensation when establishing the qualifying wages for the ERC. This year, the surplus credits from the employer retention tax credit would also be helpful for health care benefits. Is there a CARES Act ERC deadline? Yes, there is a deadline of 3 years for claiming the employee retention credit. This 3-year deadline is for businesses who missed the deadline to claim ERC, so they are eligible to claim retroactively. For your kind information, it needs to be clarified that wages earned after the third quarter of 2021 are no longer eligible for the employee retention tax credit. However, any business can claim the tax credit for tax years 2020 and 2021, up to 3 years from the initial filing date. Where can I get more information about the CARES Act Employee Retention Credit? You can visit the official Internal Revenue Service website to get more information. Conclusion and summary on what is the CARES Act Employee Retention Credit. ERC is not just beneficial for businesses, it's a much-needed relief for the employees. Employees who work for private companies and tax-exempt organizations throughout the calendar year and engaged in commerce or trade are eligible for this ERC. Additionally, workers who experienced a significant loss or a fall in their gross revenues during their calendar quarter are also qualified for the ERC. If you're an employer, contact a tax expert as soon as possible to determine if your company qualifies for the Employee Retention Credit. As long as you match the qualifying standards, it's worth looking into the Employee Retention Credit.
As you can see, navigating the Employee Retention Credit Program is very complex and confusing to try to figure it out on your own. Even on the IRS ERC FAQ pages, it says, "This page is not current." There have been several years of updates and changes to this IRS tax credit already, including 4 congressional acts and 5 updated guidances from the IRS, totaling over 3,900 pages. Who has time to sift through all that information, let alone decipher some of the confusing language and rulings? In order to stay compliant with current IRS ERC rules and regulations, expert specialized help is highly recommended. Even if your business received an SBA PPP loan, you are still eligible for the ERC credit. If you think you may not qualify, it's worth a conversation to see if your business does. Let us assist you with a complete employee retention credit process, or if you might be stuck on filling out the IRS 941X forms correctly on your own. We are here to help. Stay safe, stay compliant, keep more of your refund. Email us at support@disasterloanadvisors.com or call us toll-free at 877-463-9777 extension 3. or visit us on the web at www.disasterloanadvisors.com/ERC for complete details on the Employee Retention Credit Program for your business.